Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our veteran story right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest is Chris Greenfield. He is a veteran of 14 years, but he had a redirect. He came back and he studied and he went and did marketing, and he still does a little marketing. And then he discovered something else, something called clean coffee, which we all need. I've got my mug right here. I couldn't get through the day without a good bodum of coffee every morning. It's my fuel to get me started, so I know how important it is. But let's take his journey. Coming back as a veteran, it's always a readjustment. You're a different person when you come back, and there are some obstacles sometimes in the way, some challenges, and it's navigating your path forward of where you want to go in this really new persona that you are now. So we're going to discover and unravel Chris's journey into what he's doing now, and see what we can learn from it. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me on, Sarah. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great here. I'm doing great. As I said, I've got my mug of coffee. It's very important to me. A lot of people, give up coffee. No.
Or I guess it's morning there where you're at.
I am. I'm 11 o'clock, so it's not too far behind. You know, the noon hour is catching up with us here. And I'm in BC, sunny BC. Where are you?
I'm in Texas. I'm in Houston, Texas.
So you must be hot where you are right now.
As long as I don't have to go outside, I'm fine.
Yes, yes. We're going to reach 25 today, and believe me, that's hot for us, and certainly hot for me. So I can't take your temperatures over there.
Yeah, I don't know what it converts over to Celsius, but it should be probably mid-90s. It's probably 93, 94 outside with a 80% humidity. So it's pretty
yeah, I don't mind that 90. It's the humidity. You can keep that. Sorry. Nope. But it's partly good for growing coffee. I'm not sure, but we'll get into that.
We're still a little too far north for coffee growing.
We are? Okay, good. All right. So there's other things that are grown there. So where did you go as a veteran? What did you do? Tell us a little bit about your veteran, your warrior journey there, so we can get a little background.
Definitely. I joined the military in January of 2000 before we entered the global war on terror. Mm-hmm. I spent almost 14 years. It was like 13 years, 10 months and 6 days or something.
How many minutes?
Don't know that one. But I spent a lot of time in the active duty Army. I was actually a food service specialist for my first enlistment for about 3 years, switched over to infantry after my first tour in Iraq. And then I spent the rest of my time in the service as either as an infantry team leader or infantry squad leader. Later moved up to a section sergeant in a mechanized infantry platoon, and then went on to become a drill sergeant at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. So training basic trainees that were coming into the military, adapting them from the civilian life to the military life, and went from there. My last year active duty, I spent as a platoon sergeant, basically taking the kids that, I say kids, but taking the recruits who had been injured permanently or not necessarily permanently, but severely enough that they were having to be separated from service. Mm-hmm. And so that last year on the trail, I really focused in on what I had to do to get out, because I knew I was getting out already at that point. I was able to shift gears from the training mindset to really taking care of them and ensuring that they had all of what they needed when they got out, the education benefits, whether they were actually going to get a disability check or a lump sum payment, making sure they were taken care of health-wise, school-wise, that whole deal that carries over as an NCO when you are taking care of your soldiers. 2013, I got out. Before I was even totally out, I was already enrolled in college classes. Mm-hmm. So I was out of the military. I was still active duty, but I was on my terminal leave. and started school. You know, I finished my college degree. I got my bachelor's in a little under 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to take a lot of classes in person, take a lot of classes online, and kind of started my journey to become a history teacher. That's what I was going to school for. And that didn't work out.
Now, what was it about history that didn't grab you in the end?
Oh, I love history. I absolutely love history. I'm a huge history buff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the last year we had some issues with childcare,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to switch degree plans. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of getting my education certificate to become a teacher, I ended up just picking up a secondary minor in geography and finishing off school still with, you know, on the dean's list. But I had to make the adjustment due to, I mean, we had a little baby.
Right.
We had a 2-year-old almost at that point in time, and another one on the way. Can't remember. Hold on, let's see. Had another one either on the way or didn't know she was on the way yet when I got
Right.
it. But that shift continued to move to where I was instructing at a local gun range because I have an extensive firearms background and extensive training background, and I started moving into social media and marketing at the range I was at, and stuff continued to shift.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now I'm not here, but there's a lot of details on the way that I'm kind of glossing over that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear more about, just let me know.
Well, I love how people get their redirects. You know, we come out with, I'm going to do this. And then along the way, there's a little, you know, two-step going on. And it's like, no, you're not. You know, you're going to go and do this. And it's not something we had planned for ourselves, but very often it's where we're meant to be, you know, at that time and place in doing what we're meant to be doing. And if we're not flexible, you know, we're going to be detrimental to our own growth. And I would imagine, you know, being on the front lines, training people, even afterwards, helping people re-navigate a new life, you know, with some form of disability or challenge, that you have got to learn how to maneuver very, very quickly in your thoughts, in your emotions, and in your actions. Because if not, you kind of get left behind, don't you?
Definitely. Yeah, I don't know what I'd do without YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of stuff I've learned in the past 4 or 5 years after I've gotten out has been, okay, how do I do this? How can I figure out how to do this? Is there a class I can take, or is there a YouTube video I can watch on it? My last year of school, I had to switch gears and get involved in what they call the VOC rehab program. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a different college program for veterans with disabilities. That way they get more of a financial aid boost. So they pay for your books all out. There's some other benefits to it, but that was a whole program. It's like, okay, how do I apply for it? How do I find it? And the VA is not going to tell you step by step how to do it.
No.
But I was able to get into that program and then streamline that. Was approved the first meeting with them, which usually takes multiple meetings, because I went through and I had all my paperwork. I had everything I needed. And then I turned around and shared that with half a dozen veterans that I knew
Yeah.
needed that. I was like, hey, go in there with this stack of paperwork, with all these printouts, with these resources, and you'll get approved for the first day. So I'm still an NCO at heart. I mean, I
Yeah.
took care of soldiers long enough to do that. So I'm always sharing that knowledge. And that's exactly what happened in the position I was in. I needed to figure out how to post my classes online without having to go through the person who was doing it, because that was taking too long.
Right.
And
Yes.
so I figured it out myself. I was like, well, this isn't bad. And then that just grew and grew. And then I believe it was December of 2017. It's 2000, probably December 2017 or December 2018. We found out that my oldest daughter, who was then just turning 3 at the time, so I guess it was December 2017 when we found out. But we found out my daughter was on the spectrum, that she has autism.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really shifted gears to
Mm-hmm.
figure out, Well, instead of sending her to where we were, she needed to be in a special program, and that special program only lasted so many hours a day. And so we had to shift gears onto what, instead of me having a career outside the house now that I was out of college, it was me having a career inside the house. So I could get her to, on the bus at 7:30 and off the bus at 11, and then to speech class at 12, and to continue on. And that's exactly what it was. It was a total redirect. And it
But it
basically,
did prepare you, though, because of your training. You stepped into almost management. You stepped into tutorial teaching. You stepped into navigating for people. So had you not had all of that, you would have been probably rather inundated. I've interviewed an awful lot of parents of autistic children, and they're saying the lack for them at that time, the lack of knowledge on autism, and the lack of resources just completely and utterly daunted them. And so, of course, they've become the resource. Had you not been working with veterans with challenges, had you not been even taking in the young people and preparing them for what was to come on the front lines, would you have been prepared to deal with the redirect that you had to do with your daughter?
my wife was I wouldn't even say that I was a resource, or my wife wasn't the resource. I was the resource to my wife, because when she looked at it, she started just, soaking up all this knowledge, everything that we needed to do. We needed to do this. We had to do this. We had to do this. This was the goal of this program, and this was the goal of this program. And maybe not necessarily it stopped her, because there was so much information, but she definitely had. I'm always the one that says, "Hey, stop and look at the sky. It's a pretty sunset."
Yeah.
I'm the guy who says, "Okay, we can do that. What do we have to do? Okay, we can do that." And even though we didn't know we could do that, or what we needed to do, it was what we had to do. And I think the military definitely gave me an edge on that, being able, okay, that's the mission. Just tools we have on hand. Let's do it. And I can remember we have a really, really good public school system here. And so as soon as she was 3, she was able to get into what they call a PPCD program, which is basically preschool for kids with special needs. And it's an amazing program. And 2 weeks before her birthday, I got a phone call, and it was the bus driver. And the bus driver's like, "Hey, we can pick her up at 7:15 on Monday, the 22nd. It's like, I didn't even know she was in the program yet. And so I'm going to get emotional talking about it, but it was such an amazing experience to be that level of care put towards my child.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do you mean you'll pick her up at 7:15 on it? I'm like, and then I call my wife, and my wife's freaking out. My baby's not getting on a bus, because we hadn't made it to that point yet. And we didn't. We took her to school for a couple of weeks until we figured out, okay, hey, this works. We're going to, the time frame works. We're able to get her there. And it was much easier to put her on the bus than it was to sit in a car line for 45 minutes.
Exactly. Yes. And well, it was you guys. I mean, she probably would have been perfectly all right on the bus. It was you guys.
And she was fine. And up until, recently when COVID hit, last spring, so she had been going for about a year. No more could I walk her out to the bus. She could walk out to the bus from the front door. I mean, the bus comes right up to the house, but no, Dad, I do it myself. Bye. I love you. Close the door, Dad. Close the door. And so it was just an amazing experience being enrolled in that program, to where they cared so much for my daughter, and the whole entire program, and the open communication. But being in the military, led me to be like, okay, we can do this. We
Yeah.
have the tools. We can
Yeah.
do it.
It's just another challenge in front of you that you've got to navigate through. The women that I've interviewed on autism, their children are now either graduated, or have been through college, or are holding down jobs, and one of them has even written a book. And, the thing is about autism today, it used to be institutionalize your child. It's a form of schizophrenia, basically throw them away. And even as far as 18, 20 years ago, they were still doing that. And in the last, I would say 10, 15 years, the strides that have been made, and they've been made by those pioneers. They're saying, no, I'm not going to throw away my child. What we have to understand about autistic children is that they are firing on different systems than we are. They're not a lack of intelligence. They just use their intelligence in a different way, and they're generally more directional and more focused on what their gift is and what they can do. It's up to us to learn their language and how to communicate with them.
It's so true. It's so true. She's about a year and a half behind on her speech, and her speech and her social would be the only things that would set it off that, okay, you kind of when people kind of meet her, when she's talking to them, they're like, well, okay, she's a little behind on her speech, and then some of the way she says stuff is a little off, and then you do have some of her social cues. She doesn't understand that not everybody would be friendly.
Right.
She
Yes.
doesn't.
Yes.
She doesn't she'll engage anyone with a conversation, and then if you're not talking in the pattern that she wants you to go at, she resorts to a really scripted way of communication that is comfortable for her, because she's like, okay, well, I don't know what you're saying or you're asking, so this is my dad, this is my Charlie, this is my mom. She'll start introducing us, and then she'll resort back to that sometimes. But she is smart as a whip. She's a little engineer. She'll put toys together in ways to do stuff that I would like, okay, well, how did you come up with that? Or I'll go out of the room and I'll come back in and she's built this whole entire tower with her. She's got these giant blocks, and she's engineered the stuff, and she's got stuff set on top of it. And you're like,
yeah,
of course you thought of that. Of course you thought of that.
Yeah. There's a brilliant movie, which I wish I could remember the name of it right now. It's on Netflix. I think it's about Isabella. The girl from Homeland, Clara Danes. Clara Danes plays her. It's a true life story of this girl with autism, but her mother sent her to school, and she was really quite brilliant, and she went on to university. Didn't work very well there, went into kind of a special school where they understood that she knew geometry, like she knew how things worked. She could see patterns, and she went on to completely change the cattle industry on how they dunk them and how they take them to the abattoir, because she could feel them. She even came up with a device that could hug her, because a lot of autistic people don't like to be touched, and it was her hug without the physical touch. And she actually went on to university teaching people about autism, and completely broke the bubble of what it was meant to be all about. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
I haven't seen the movie, but I do know who you're talking about. And she's very extravagant.
Yes.
Dresser. She dresses herself very extravagantly, right?
She dresses like a guy all the time.
I think it's like a cowgirl, like an old school. Like,
sure, rolling the dun, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that aspect. I saw her a couple times on social media.
I highly recommend it. And Clara Danes really does it justice, and it changes that whole perspective. So, and having interviewed a few autistic people who are adults, saying like, I've always been autistic, but nobody knew. I just thought there was something wrong with me. I couldn't do that, but I could do this very well. Why couldn't they recognize I could do this very well? Why are they telling me off for not doing that? And that's the thing that we've got to understand about autistic people. They're very channeled. They're very channeled in their gifts and what they can do. And that's what you need to nurture. And that's what you need to praise and allow them to explore. Don't expect them to tick all those other boxes, because they don't see those other boxes
No,
as something that's important.
no, they don't. Like,
No.
they don't. They don't. It's
They're very
it's one
direct.
of those things. It's like with the switch to
Mm,
COVID-19, how we're having to adapt to everything. There's certain things that we're not able to do anymore, and it's really hard to explain to her
yeah.
why we can't go to the park and play with all the kids, why we can't do this, why we can't do that. But she's loving it because she's a pajama person. She wants soft. Soft is
Yes.
very, very
Yes.
important to
Very.
her. We ended up having to buy like 3 or 4 hoodies this past year that were all pretty much the same look and material, so she could wear the same thing every day, but we could wash it.
Yes. Yes.
But now she's happy just because she gets to wear pajamas. And it's one of those things, well, okay, well, it there's no use of making that into a battle
Why?
when
Yeah. Why?
when
Yeah.
when we don't have to.
No.
But there's some things that we see that she's done or that she does that me and my wife really relate to, because we did that as a child, or
Mm.
we still see that stuff that way, or it really drives home. So there's sometimes when my wife and me are talking, my wife's like, you definitely have some different characteristics that show up on that spectrum. So you
Mm-hmm.
never know
No.
if they were as strict as diagnosing it, 30 years ago or
Yeah.
40 years ago almost now, when I was a kid, there I could possibly be on the spectrum.
Yeah. I always think I
But
am,
it's
because I completely see life differently to what most people
totally
do.
different.
Right.
Totally different. Uh,
A lot of people think that autistic people are rigid, but what they do like is a pattern and a system. And they like to kind of stick to that pattern and system. And maybe that's where the military was where you thrived, because it is very, very, set into to structure, isn't it? But your ability to see more what was needed from the emotional side of the people rather than the strategic battle side of it seems to be where your forte is.
it definitely is. It definitely is. I was pretty good at the strategic battle side of it as well, but the personal inner the personal inner relationships that you built in the military was always something that was something I was strong at. I always considered myself a good leader. I always had, I didn't have to be the authoritarian type. My
Mm,
guys did what they needed to do because they wanted to do it, and
right.
they wanted to work for me, and I took care of them. And that's how I've always been. I mean, I still mentor some of my soldiers that I had back in the military, or some of the guys that I work with today. And in the past, I've mentored them. Oh, you need to do this. You're not taking advantage of this program. You need to take advantage of
Mm,
this program, or you can, you know, let me take care of you. Let me show you what we're doing. And I do that also on the coffee side of the house.
mm,
So
mm.
let me not bump my microphone. Hopefully that wasn't too loud on
Yeah,
your
no,
end.
no, not to worry. Oh
But
yeah, but it's whatever you did there, and the way you see things, and the way you were gifted with your daughter is because you could cope with it. You can see it. You know what to do, and you bring all of that, ability to everything else that you do. So, I always think that everything happens for a reason. The whole reason why you had to stay at home, the whole reason, first with the second pregnancy, and then with the autistic child. And then, obviously this is where you're meant to be, because you can branch out and do more things, multiple things at the same time.
multiple things at the same time. You're right. So currently I do marketing for some local small businesses. I do customer service for a really successful online business. And I also have my own small business that I do. And I write for a magazine and take pictures for a magazine. So
Right.
it's
And a full-time dad
full-time dad.
and husband. Let's not
And
forget that
husband.
part.
Yeah, it's way down on the chain there. The full-time dad, they haven't busted in here yet, because they're probably hungry for some chicken nuggets here in a little bit. But this fall, I think I'm going to be falling into the role of kindergarten teacher, because
Mm.
we're not going to send my daughter back to school when
No, not yet. No, no.
they don't know what they're going to do. And
No, no, and very wise, because quite honestly, America is going to go through this a hell of a lot longer, just because of the pushback against it. And so the lesson that is to be learnt from it is going to take longer to be learnt.
Yeah.
So, this is where community comes in, isn't it? Like you said, you take care of some local businesses. And this is where one steps up with the community and where the community steps up for each other. Have you found that?
Definitely in some cases. So the local business that I'm working with now was literally, I didn't even offer the job. Like I didn't even come out and say, hey, I'll do your marketing for you. It was our family chiropractor. And she was asking me one question one day, and then I got up off the table, and the little girl was getting on the table to get adjusted. And she's, hey, can you do our marketing for us? I'm like, sure. Yeah, let's talk. And so that kind of fell into, like a local support organization,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. But, there's not, school was a little bit weird this past spring because we were having to do everything online.
Mm-hmm.
We were still doing speech therapy over Zoom, and with a neurotypical child, I'm sure it's extremely difficult to get them to sit in front of a computer for 20 minutes and talk to
Yes.
somebody.
Yes.
With my daughter, it was difficult, but we did it.
Mm-hmm.
But community wise, I'm kind of detached, other than those people who are really, really in my small circle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And, that's the way we have to go right now. I mean, there's other ways of reaching out and supporting. So tell me about the coffee. I mean, I'm a coffee addict. You can't touch my coffee, can't touch my vegetables, and occasionally can't touch my scotch. But not a teetotaler. I always say I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's strong cup of black coffee. It's really
nice.
important to me, and because I drink it black, and because I don't drink sugar, I don't like these acidic type coffees that you get at some, popular coffee places. Um, good, rich, robust, smooth coffee is very important to me. So tell me about your coffee.
So luckily, I kind of got introduced to the specialty coffee industry last summer-ish. It was about a year ago now. And what it was I was trying to build a website for a company that was actually growing an important coffee in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reaching out to all these small coffee roasters to try their coffee, because that would be my customers, because I was going to be selling green coffee or building a website to sell green coffee to roasters in the United States. And that didn't exactly work through. But what happened was I fell in love with really, really good coffee that I never didn't even know that fresh roasted coffee kind of existed. I just thought you just
Mm.
got your coffee at the grocery store, and that was it. And I started getting introduced to all these small batch coffee roasters all across the country. And actually, I have one. The bag hanging up is actually from Chica Bean, which is one of my roasters in Guatemala. And so she sent me that bag to hang on my wall. But I didn't even know it was a thing. Like
Mm.
I didn't know about it. And so I started tasting and getting into different brew methods and finding out so much more about coffee. And then I was like, you know what? I think I can build a website to showcase these small batch coffee roasters that I was engaging with, because there wasn't really anything for the size roasters that I was engaging with
Right, yes.
to
They've either
that
got the big
scale.
contract for
It,
like Starbucks or this
right,
or that, right? Yeah, they're not the small
right,
independents. Mm-hmm.
right. Not the small guys that are even. Let me see if I got anybody I don't have anybody that's super small hang on the wall. So these guys, let me see if we can get it on there.
Yeah, fuzzy what?
Fuzzy Monkey.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they literally only roast a bag at a time. That's it. That's all they can fit in their little roaster is roughly 14 ounces, and after it's roasted, it's about 12. So it's just an amazing process that a lot of the big online marketplaces like mine, they don't mess with those guys because they can't turn over enough
Right.
coffee fast enough.
Yeah. So you're a
Or
specialty
I'm
coffee place.
very specialty coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and very small batch, micro batch is
Mm-hmm.
what the term technically is. And it's just such a neat experience to engage with these guys and ladies and really focus on, they might only have a cafe that they supply and they supply all their little local community, or they might not even be to that point yet. Some of them don't even have bags with logos on it. They're just still sticking it in like a brown paper bag and no logo actually on the bag. So it's really neat to get in there and then kind of mentor these roasters on lessons learned that I've learned on website building, on social media marketing, on different techniques, on making YouTube videos or making an Instagram video, or just using hashtags, because some of these guys some of these roasters have another job, or they have two other jobs, and they roast on the side in their garage, or they've just now switched gears to where they're roasting full time for themselves, and they might not have the ability or the time or the money to engage with, basically a social media marketing coach. And that's what I do. I sell their coffee on my website, and I help them market their coffee locally. So it's really cool. It's really cool, fun, tasty, very tasty, a thing to be able to do, because I've had coffees from places that I didn't even know had coffee or exported coffee. And I've got some samples. I'm like right in the middle of my.
Oh, have a frozen moment there. Hang 10, folks. He'll be back in a second. We're in a frozen moment. We are in retrograde. Okay, he's back, folks. He's unfrozen.
Awesome. Let me fix this. Hang on just a second.
Clean coffee. That is something that we all need, isn't it? Coffee, as I said, is very important to me. Good, rich, robust coffee. Definitely. And we want to support people that are out there trying to make a living for themselves, as the individuals or small groups, and not just big conglomerates all the time.
I'm back. You good?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So that's one excellent point is, finding a coffee roaster close to you is very important. Unless you're going to my website, but most towns, most large cities will have 3 or 4 or at least one small batch coffee roaster. And the really important part about that is one, you're supporting a local small business.
Yes.
But typically they actually pay more for their coffee than the big company who's buying Connexes and 40,000 pounds containers at a time, because these small growers all over the world typically get barely enough to support the crop that they grew, let alone support their family or their community. And that's one of the things I do when I talk to my roasters. Okay, where do you source your coffee from? All right, how responsible are you being with the sourcing to ensure that what they call the farm gate price, which is what that farmer is getting in his hand at the end of the day, is a fair, livable, fair trade. Well, direct trade is one of the terms, or traceable is one of the other terms that we look for, because you actually have to pay for the fair trade emblem.
Oh, okay.
So some of the stuff that's marked as fair trade is actually somebody's just paying for it, and doesn't necessarily actually mean that the farmers get a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
So when a farmer can get $4 for a pound of coffee rather than 86 cents for a pound of coffee, it's a life-changing opportunity for that farmer, and that farmer's able to reinvest and make better coffee next year and produce better coffee and then he produces better coffee and he gets a better price for it. Right. So it's very important on multiple levels to support those small batch coffee roasters or micro batch coffee roasters. And, you get on Google and type local coffee roaster near me, and you'll get a ton of hits. And if you can find them at a farmer's market or that type of venue or a CSA, local store that's selling somebody's local coffee, it's an amazing opportunity to spend a few dollars more, but you're going to get better product.
Right.
You're going to
And I
get
think
way
that's where we're at in life at the present moment, isn't it? You know, if this whole COVID thing has had everybody on pause, and it's a good time to review, you know, to renew, to redirect, and to look at your practices. And one of the things we realized, because we're not out shopping all the time, we realized that we rather have better quality at home and less of, you know, good quality and less of the bulk. And that if we really do want good quality, we really are going to have to pay for it. And that if we want everyone to be sustainable in this world, which that equality of sustainability should be there for everyone, every living being on this planet, then we should be willing to pay the price for it. And if you want cheap, 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 then you're going to buy from, you know, the big companies that go and get it cheap, and you know that they're gouging people on the other end, right? So they're barely making it. Pay a few bucks more for something of quality that you know trickle down is actually supporting the people on the farms and giving them a quality of life. And also understand that you'll enjoy your coffee a lot more, because not only does it taste better, not only is it better for you, but you appreciate it more. And I think that not just coffee, anything that you have, cut out the abundance of it and go down to, you know, smaller amounts, but better quality, and you'll just enjoy it so much more.
That's exactly right, Sarah. There's so much, you know, I got a box in today, and I'll be doing a Facebook Live after I get off here with you on opening the box of coffee that just came to me through my subscription. And that coffee was roasted, you know, 5 days ago, 4 days ago. What it took the postal system here is just all messed up. But, you know, that coffee is still not to what they call peak freshness. Usually that's about a week after roasting is where it's really, really good. But I challenge somebody to go to a grocery store and find a roasted on date even on a bag of coffee, because typically it's just an expiration date.
Right. Yes.
It could have been roasted
years
9 years ago, in fact, in some instances. And there's cases of companies buying old coffee, mixing it with kind of new coffee, and then repackaging that and selling it, because there's no saying that you can't do it. There's no regulation saying you can't do it. So they do it. And now
it's not like it goes bad. It just loses its robustness.
Right. It loses its flavor. It loses its aroma. And I can take, unfortunately, I get too much coffee than I can actually drink before it's not fresh anymore. And this is the first time in my life when I started doing this that I could be like, okay, that coffee isn't fresh anymore because of it didn't smell as good as it did, or the flavor doesn't stick with you as long. And that's one of the things that I'm noticing now, because I bought some grocery store coffee the other day because I wanted to try a different brand. And it's good coffee. It's wonderful coffee, but it doesn't last as long. Like the flavors just don't stay with you. Like, I mean, this was roasted last week that I'm having right now, and it's this year's crop. I mean, you don't get any fresher than that. And it's just an amazing thing to be able to say, okay, I'm going to pay $2 more for a bag of coffee, and know that that $2 is going to trickle down to get to the farmer. In fact, if you go on my website and you find Chica Bean, which is from Guatemala, that's the farmer. That's a group of women farmers that are growing the coffee, are roasting the coffee, and they've worked out a special deal with UPS to ship coffee directly to the consumer from Guatemala. And I can actually get a bag of coffee from Guatemala to somebody in New York or Oregon for cheaper than I can get a bag of coffee from Houston to Oregon. It's just crazy. I need to see if I can get you some in Canada.
I would love that.
I'll talk to Abigail and see what their deal is, and see what that thing is, because, you know, it cost me like $20 to send a bag of coffee to Canada. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, you know, I drink a bodum of coffee a day. And I'm finding with the particular coffee I have right now that kind of by that second cup, I start feeling a little nauseous.
Oh
And
no.
it's like, hang on, what's happening here? You know, I love my coffee, and then it's like, okay, maybe time to change coffee. So,
Could possibly be. Then
yeah.
and there's tons. Y'all actually have a wonderful small batch coffee culture, is what I call it, a small batch coffee culture in Canada, where
Mm.
y'all have amazing roasters all over the country.
Yes.
And I've even ran.
And I'm on Vancouver Island, and we've got a few over here that are really,
Oh
really
yeah.
good. Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing is, people laughing, oh, it's just coffee. Well, do you drink your beer that way? Do you drink your wine that way? You have your favorite wine, your favorite beer. You will pay more for it because you love it more, because of the way it tastes, or, everything about it, and especially wine. Or brandy or anything else that
Oh yeah.
needs to be aged, right? It's like, when you're sipping a good glass of wine, again, that robust taste, none of the additives in it. And actually, the yellowtail is the only wine that I know of right now in a good price bracket that is vegan. And the reason I point that out is because it doesn't have all those other additives. And I didn't know they actually added fish oil in certain wines, which is like, what? What? And no wonder I get a headache from that. So
Yeah, that doesn't even sound good. But
no.
but now I'm not a wine guy. I am a beer guy, and that's
Right.
what I really relate to. And I've tried the Scotch. I actually had a guy on a couple months ago that was talking about, and that you can't call it American Scotch, so it's American single malt
Mm-hmm.
whiskey. And talked about that culture. And I've always wanted to get into it, so I buy a bottle here and there. But I love craft beer, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what coffee really relates to.
Mm-hmm.
It's because 15, 20 years ago, you wouldn't think about paying 12 or 13 bucks for a six pack of beer.
Right.
It just blow people's minds
Exactly.
that you're paying that much for beer. And now you go to the grocery store, and 12 or $13 six packs or single bottles even is not unheard of.
No.
And in fact, it's actually quite popular. And I would love to see if that kind of transferred over to coffee, to where
Mm-hmm.
people are like, okay, there's only 40,000 pounds of this coffee produced annually from this one farm. And now that roaster, there's only 100 roasters in the country that are getting that coffee, and it tastes like blueberry and graham cracker and caramel, and you're not even having to do anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such an awesome experience to be able to get up in the morning and have something that delicious and that
Enriching,
good.
that enriching. It's something that as you drink it, it's not just like to wake you up or get you engaged, because that is something you can do by other practices, but it's just something about drinking that coffee, and it's like ah, and the robust taste and the way it feels and the way it goes down. It's just something about it that is so engaging. And it's the same with you having your beer at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day. It's coffee in the morning for me. And it was funny, when I was in Taiwan, they had these funny little caravan type trucks around where they were selling coffee. And I had one, and I thought, oh my God, this coffee is so good. Normally, I stop drinking coffee by 1, 2 o'clock in the day, because if I drink it any later, I'm awake at night. Over there, I was drinking coffee before going to bed and still sleeping, and the taste was magnificent. I have no idea where they got their coffee from, but it was spectacular. And in North America, we're inclined to go for commercial
Mm-hmm.
rather than going for quality. And I think I think the word quality in every aspect of our lives is actually on the table right now. Quality of family time. People now working at home instead of going to work. Quality of the work that you do. It's not the amount of hours, it's what you put into the
Mm-hmm.
hours that you are working. Quality into your marketing instead of blah, 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 blah. Be poignant, be personable, be invitational. Everything about what we're looking at right now. Let's simplify and let's put out the quality and stop looking at the mass, because the mass is what's got us into trouble in many ways.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Redirects are wonderful, because we never know, where they're going to come from. If go back a few years, you're coming out, you're going to school to be a history teacher, and look where you are now. Yet you're allowed, through the journey that you're willing to take, and adaptation and adopting different platforms, you're able to have that time with your children and with your wife, which is wonderful quality time. And you're able to be probably more personable with the people that you work with, because you're not in transit going to work, and you were willing to kind of redirect. So many people don't know how to redirect. Well, no, I've paid to go to school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. What you learned there, you will apply over here, but be willing to be flexible and go with the wind, because that's what the journey is all about.
It definitely is. And being flexible, and one of those things is being able to see an opportunity when it comes up, and seeing what you can do to engage with that opportunity to make it better. And one of those I'll bring up is the customer service job.
Yes.
that I was able to get. I had engaged with that company before. I knew the owner. We'd went through some of the same training together in classes, and I saw him post on social media. He was looking for a consumer, basically a customer sales rep is basically what he was looking for, or a customer service rep. And I saw him post it. I immediately messaged him. I was like, "Hey man, I'll do it." And he goes, "I can't afford you." I said, "Talk it over, see what's going on, on your end, and make me an offer, and we'll talk about it." I mean, that's all you can do.
Go from there.
About what I was making before, but you never know. And that was about 2 weeks before COVID, before the lockdown happened. Hold on.
We have an entrance here.
No, we're just, I heard somebody say something. I was like, which, who needs what?
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, they're fixing to start coming in here, chanting here in a second with their utensils. Like they'd like to do that. But, that was about 2 weeks before COVID started. The girls were on spring break, which is when they didn't go back from spring break. And, I went in and I knew all of his systems already, because that's the systems that I was involved with and knew already. I knew how to run his entire website in the back end. I knew how to run the shipping, and it just fell into a spot to where if I would have been like, "Meh, I don't need that." Well, it's another stream of income. It's building, we're building right now. We've added jobs because we've shipped about 12,000 packages since March.
Wow.
And just not with coffee. I wish it was coffee.
Yeah.
But
that will come.
that will come. But we've shipped all that, engaged and grown our customer base just because of what we sell and the opportunities that have arisen. And if I wouldn't have been said, "Hey, I'll do that," I wouldn't have that position going forward. And who knows, a year from now, I might have a team of customer service reps under me,
right?
And not even be answering the emails like I am doing. Right. So, and that was a really good opportunity, because he knows I have the coffee business. He buys coffee from me, and so he knows, "Hey, do you have time to do this with all your other stuff?" And so that was an opportunity that I was able to seize upon, and I'm really thankful for Ike, giving me that opportunity to grow and see how he's grown his business, so I can mimic some stuff with mine, and help others. So it's pivoting, seizing that opportunity, getting that redirect, and really keeping your head up, or keeping your chin up, and approaching it is very important. And I like to think that the veteran identity is not necessarily an identity, it's a detail. And I've always been really really stressed about
I think it's your degree. I mean, when you look at all the training that you received, and how you have applied it to every aspect of your life, that was your training, that was your schooling, right? So it's kind of, in many, many ways, it's a degree. All the veterans that I have interviewed, some have come from traumatic, and some have post-traumatic stress. Some people have literally been burnt and lost limbs, but it's all about that redirect of what they can do now. and everything they learned being a soldier and everything they've learned since becoming maybe a challenged veteran, as one person put it, not disabled, differently abled, which I think is
Hmm.
a much better title. And what they're doing now is, is abundant, but it's that willing to be flexible. And, right now with businesses that are going on, there are so many now that are having to redirect to online instead of storefront. And a lot of people just simply, oh, well, I'm not getting the business. I can't afford to do this. So we need people who will be flexible and say, look, I'll start off slow and the pricing will go up as we grow. Right? And if we're all flexible, and that's why I say about community, stepping in to each other's community and helping, because when that person becomes abundant, through your help, you become abundant. So for a lot of people that are coaching and doing it, you can't go with the same prices that you did before because
Yeah.
people aren't making that. So be flexible, be supportive, and grow with them. Make that kind of deal.
That's definitely an awesome point that you made about being flexible and looking at different opportunities and what we have to do now at the different scale. I was helping out one guy on, I don't have time to take another. I'd
Right.
love to take some more uh, advertising clients, but I just don't have the time. So I was like, hey, just call me. Just call me and let me look what you're doing.
Mm,
And I talked to him for about an hour, and we, helped him make a decision on who he was actually going with and that path he was taking. But there was no reason for me to say, hey, I'll consult you for
yeah.
$600,
Right.
or $100 for that hour. I had the time. I needed to help
Yeah.
him. He's a fellow veteran. And I think a lot of people would do a lot better,
Yeah.
not necessarily giving services away, but if you don't need that
Yeah.
aspect, if you're okay, if you're making those ends meet, help somebody out.
Yes. I mean, that's what it's about. Brotherhood, sisterhood, familyhood, it's about there. The village is only as strong as everybody in it, and everybody has a role to play. And so we have to understand, especially in these times, that it's time to step up. And if you've got the time and you've got the ability to help someone, I mean, I'm here to support the coaches, support the people in the work that they're doing, that they're supporting others. When I'm, coach myself, and very often I'll find myself stepping into the coaching role. I don't question it. It's just what I'm meant to do right now, right? If that person benefits from it financially, then maybe they'll remember me, right? And if they don't, so be it. May they pay it forward, right? That's the whole point. But the more we're willing to give, the more we're willing to share, I think is the more that we will receive.
Total agreement with you, Sarah.
I love the journeys, everything that you've done, and I think that your adaptability to be able to adjust to a new situation, to be able to see things differently, clearly coming from the heart. And, in all the business shows that I do, one of the things that it has become extremely evident, thank God, it's the fact it's now being coached to businesses, organizations, big industries. Where's your heart and soul? Where's your heart and soul in this business? Because if I don't see your heart in it, if I don't see your soul in it, if I don't see your commitment to it, why should I work with you? Because all you are then is a dollar sign. And if
Mhm.
you're a dollar sign, I'm not interested. I'm going to somebody who has some heart and soul in it, that treats their colleagues or workers, their customers, with a sense of dignity and passion and conviction. And that is what we're looking at right now. That is the shift that we're seeing. Why should I do business with you? If I don't like you, I'm not going to do business with you. If
Right.
I believe in your heart and soul and what you're doing and why you're doing it, I want to do business with you. So in whatever we do today, it's not about the bottom dollar, what is in it for me. It's about, as much as that we shed light on other people and support other people, the more it will come back to us in whichever way, in whichever opportunity.
Definitely.
Much better times, isn't it? It's more
Yes, it
exciting these
is.
times.
I would rather connect with somebody and spend my money with them because I connect with them
Yes.
than just the random. There's stuff I get on from Amazon.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, me too.
the, the
Technical
phone,
stuff.
the phone,
Yes.
the phone case, my lights. I'm not going
Yeah.
to connect with those guys.
No.
But the stuff that I'm really engaged with, and I'm using every day, you know, just tons of different stuff. I want to make that connection. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to go on the website and be like, hey, this guy's cool. I
Yeah.
like them. I'm going to support them with my dollars. And
Right.
that's how I'm going to spend my money. And that's really what I've, tried to build with Roasters Marketplace is that sense of community. Hey.
Come and join us.
Oh, well, she's taking off her clothes. So we're not getting online. And she runs away. It's my 2-year-old is definitely one of those ones. She's like you get her completely dressed and you get her hair fixed and you turn around and you come back and you're like, where are your clothes, Charlie? It was itchy. It was itchy. It wasn't itchy. It was a bathing suit. Oh, you got an ice cream. That's awesome. Where'd you get the ice cream? It looks like a ball. But I think that's my time, actually.
Yeah, yes, yep. I think so. So let everybody know how they can get hold of you if they're interested in the marketing, if they're interested in anything else that you do, but most certainly interested in the coffee. So how do people get hold of you?
Definitely, Sarah. You can find me at roastersmarketplace.com. You can find me on social media under anything on there on Roasters Marketplace. You can find me Roasters Marketplace on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. I'm Roasters Marketplace, Roasters_Marketplace on Instagram. I think I sent you all my links where they can find me. I also do the Common Grounds podcast on YouTube. You can find me Common Grounds podcast. You'll see my face on there. We actually have a live show tonight where we're interviewing one of our coffee roasters, and you can find me on the Roasters Marketplace YouTube channel, which we just launched a couple weeks ago. That is more coffee centric, to where we're talking about coffee tasting notes and brewing methods and that kind of stuff. But Chris at roastersmarketplace.com if you want to send me an email or message me on Facebook or Instagram.
Excellent. I highly recommend you get on LinkedIn as well.
I am. I'm on LinkedIn. Chris Greenfield on LinkedIn, and Roasters Marketplace LLC on LinkedIn.
Excellent. And, the thing is about your social media and everything else, what people need to understand, it's not just about posting something and forgetting. It's about engagement. It's about conversation, and it's about sharing. And it's about it really caring. So it's not just a posting thing. It is treat it as a network, treat it as a community, and make sure that you follow other people and make comments, because it is a conversation platform.
It is. Right? It is so much more of a challenge. And I am now being paged by Daddy Kamir. So Sarah, thank you. And shoot me an email with that information that you need from me.
I will do. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a wonderful show with Chris Greenfield about coffee and about veteeranism, about autism, about marketing. So much that we have covered here today. So very inspirational about our redirects in life and going with the flow. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.